Hey guys, so today we're going to be learning the process or the steps from beginning to end of how to divide a whole number by a fraction and a fraction by a whole number. So we're going to start with actually a song. So hope you enjoy this. This is actually one of my favorites that I use. So kind of has a nice little catch to it.
Don't divide. You gotta change the sign to multiply. But there's something more. When a problem comes around, you must flip it. You gotta change the sign at times. Then you flip it. It's really not too hard when you flip it. Before you flip it, change the sign. Now flip it. Cross, cancel, multiply. Reduce that thing. Now you're done. Check your work. Did you flip it? Flip it good. When a problem comes around, you must flip it. You gotta change the sign at times. Then you flip it. It's really not so hard when you flip it. I said flip it. Flip it good. I said flip it. Flip it good. Don't divide. You gotta change the sign to multiply. But there's something more. When a problem comes around, you must flip it. You gotta change the sign at times. Then you flip it. It's really not too hard when you flip it. Before you flip it, change the sign. Now flip it. Cross, cancel, multiply. Reduce that thing. Now you're done. Check your work. Did you flip it? Flip it good.
I just love that song. It has a nice little beat to it. But anyway, whether you liked it or not, we're going to talk about flipping it today. So what does flipping it have to do with dividing fractions? So if you're following along with the words and some of the images that were on the screen, you're going to see that a couple things will change. One thing that was changed was if it was division, you didn't actually divide, you multiplied. And then the second fraction got flipped, okay? So we're going to learn the vocab word for flipping that second fraction. So we're going to look through our notes here and we're going to go through this process, and I will be doing an example as I go through this process, okay? So first step in dividing fractions is called keep, okay? So the first step, number one, is keep the first fraction. So whatever the first fraction is, keep it just how it is. Then the second step is called change. So we're going to keep the first fraction. We're going to change the division sign to multiplication. Okay, because we learned with our models yesterday, we're really not dividing, we're really multiplying. Okay, everything we did yesterday had something to do with multiplying. We're going to change the sign of multiplication, and then the second fraction, we're going to flip upside down, and that's called its reciprocal form. So if I have 1/3, when I flip it, that becomes 3/1. Okay, if I have 2/5, when I flip it, that becomes 5/2 or 5/2. If I have a whole number, like 7, okay, the fraction for that is 7/1. So when I flip that whole number, it actually becomes 1/7 or 1/7. So we'll look at that as we go through these slides, okay? So once you flip the second fraction into its reciprocal form, its flipped form, you're going to multiply just like you learned in our multiplication unit. Multiply the numerators, the denominators, and then reduce if necessary. So here's our example. So we're going to do 2/8 times 2/8 divided by 3/4. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to keep 2/8. Okay, so the first fraction stays. Then we're going to change the operation to multiplication. And then we're going to flip the second fraction. So what is 3/4? We're going to switch to 4/3. Now that we've flipped it, now we can actually do the multiplication. So 2 times 4 is 8. 8 times 3 is 24. So we have 8/24. Now we know that that can be simplified by the common factor of 8. So we're going to reduce that. And we end up with 1/3. So our final answer to taking 2/8 and dividing it by 3/4 is to get 1/3. Okay, so let's look at some more examples with that. Okay, so based on yesterday's lesson, I can make a model of this, and I can take 3 things and I can divide them into fifths. So 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 5 pieces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces. So that's really the same thing as 3 of these times 5 pieces. Tell me, oh, there's 15. Now let's look at this with this process now, okay, of step 1, keep, step 2, change, step 3, flip. Okay, so we are going to keep the first value, so 3, which is the same thing as 3/1. We're going to change the division sign to a multiplication, and then we're going to flip 1/5 to 5/1, flipping the numerator and the denominator upside down. So now I can multiply the numerators, I can multiply the denominators, and 15/1 equals 15. Hey, look, same thing as what we did with our models yesterday. Okay? So if you need to draw models for these, that's totally fine. I'm not going to do any more models, but if you need to, go right ahead. Okay, so number 13, we're going to do 8/1 times, we're going to change that, and we're going to flip 1/3 to 3/1. And when I do that, I get 24/1, which equals 24. Okay, I want you to pause, and I want you to do 14 and 15 on a whiteboard, and then I want you to come back and check. Okay, guys, let's look at what 14 and 15 is. Okay, so 3/1 times 10/1 equals 30. Okay, then 9/1 times 8/3 equals 72/3. Oh, we have improper fraction. Let me go down here. 72 divided by 3 is 2, 6, 12. Oh, answer is 24. Okay, pretty easy, right? Okay, so let's go to a word problem here. Rudy has 8 yards of twine. If he cuts the twine into equal pieces of 3/4 each, how many pieces can he cut? Okay, well, Rudy's starting with 8 yards of twine, and that's what he's cutting, and he's cutting them into sections of 3/4 each. So we're taking 8 things, we're dividing it into chunks of 3/4. So we're going to write this out. Okay, it's going to change to 8/1. Change the sign, flip the second fraction. I end up with 32/3, and then I need to change that from improper to a mixed number. So I end up with 0, 0, 10 and 2/3 pieces. Okay, so he has 10 and 2/3 pieces, or 10 pieces and 2/3 left over after that. Okay, so that was whole number divided by a fraction. Now we're going to look at what if we start out with a fraction and we're going to divide it by a whole number. So I have a little picture here, so I'll do a model for this one. So I have a picture that's divided into fourths, okay? So what we're going to do is I'm going to take the 1/4 and I'm going to divide it into 2 pieces. So there I went. Okay, so we had 1/4, okay? I'm going to do a shade in that 1/4. So there's 1/4. And when it was cut into 2 pieces, There's my two pieces. There's one of the pieces, okay? Right here, this part right here, yellow, this part right here is 1/4 cut into halves or cut into two pieces. So our answer to this would be, change back to my color, would be 1/8. Now let's look at this math-wise and see, does that play out with our new steps, okay? So step 1 was keep it, okay? So we're going to keep 1/4. Step 2 is change the sign to multiplication. Step 3 is flip this, okay? So first we want to put it over 1, and now we can flip it because we have to put it as a fraction, then flip it. So 2 over 1 flipped is 1/2. And when I solve 1/4 times 1/2, I get 1/8. So the process matches our pictures from yesterday. Okay, so let's look at number 2 here. So I have 1/4, change the sign, then make this whole number a fraction, and then flip it, so 1/4. So the answer here would be 1 out of 16. Okay, so I want you to use your whiteboard. I want you to solve 7, 8, 9, and 10, and then come back and see if you're right. Okay, guys, so here are the 4 answers. For number 7, we have 1/6. For number 8, we have 1/12. For number 9, we have 1/12. And for number 10, we have 1/20. If you're confused or you're having any questions here, please make sure you come and ask me at this point before you go on to the independent practice. Okay, so Sue has a 1/2 gallon of milk. She needs to pour 4 glasses of milk. So what fraction of a gallon should she put in each glass? So she's starting with 1/2 of a gallon. Okay, so that's her beginning part. Okay, so let's do a little picture here. Okay, oh, this is going to be kind of really bad here. Okay, and here's a little handle. There we go. Okay, so she has 1/2 of a gallon, and she's going to pour 1/2 of a gallon into 4 cups. Okay, so we want to know, so there's some going into each of the 4 cups. So we need to take that 1/2 a gallon and divide it among 4. So that's going to be the same thing as keep the first fraction, flip the, change the sign, and then flip 4 into its reciprocal form, so 1/4. So then we solve 1 times 1, 2 times 4. So our final answer is that each cup is going to get 1/8 of a gallon of milk. Okay? Okay, so I hope that cleared things up. What I'm going to want you guys to do next is do the independent practice. If you have any questions, please make sure that you ask before you move on to the next thing.